Biden holds a commanding primary lead in South Carolina. A new Fox News poll show a very different story in the crucial Rust Belt state, of Wisconsin. So what does that say about where the Democratic Party's loyalties are? Here to discuss, pollster and GOP strategist Justin Wallin. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin by taking a look at both of those polls. The South Carolina Democratic poll right now, we have Joe Biden actually up 6 points. That's a change since July of 2019. Then you have Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, who's actually dropped 4 points. And then to Wisconsin, pretty different. We have Joe Biden at 28%, Elizabeth Warren 22%, and Bernie Sanders at 17%. So what is your take on both of these polls?
Yeah, so South Carolina really is kind of the way the race looked at the beginning of this nomination period, and Wisconsin, I think, is the way of the future. In fact, if you look at the Real Clear Politics average of polls, Biden and Warren are statistically tied. So the story here is one, Biden's fall appears kind of inevitable at this point. He continues to lose traction against Warren, and when you fall from the top, that almost kind of generates its own inertia. So the Biden camp should be very, very concerned. They have real problems. And then the second one has to do with Warren, who's done a remarkable job of distancing herself from Sanders. And they were just neck and neck earlier. And I think she deserves credit because she's been able to distill a series of messages that are fairly complex about complex economic theory. And regardless of how you feel about socialism, an American public, the American voting public, is not a fan of socialism. She's been able to distill those messages in a way that are clear sound bites, been able to gain traction. And frankly, Bernie just sounds hackneyed. He sounds like he's kind of the same one-trick pony these days.
It is interesting if you take a look nationally, and we can pull this up, the Real Clear Politics national poll average right now, and you have Joe Biden at 26.2%, Elizabeth Warren closing in at 24%, and then what you were just referencing, differentiating herself from Bernie Sanders when it comes to socialism, where he's coming in there at 16.8% below her.
Yeah, and it's the distance there is I don't think has to do with Bernie's health in any way. I just think that he doesn't seem to have that fire. He doesn't seem to be really communicating with the base. She does. Now it seems to be panning out into this little internecine warfare between the two, of Biden, the moderate, and Warren, the true progressive, and Warren is gaining ground quickly at the expense of Bernie. So definitely a split Democratic Party, and as if Warren ends up being the nominee, there's going to be real challenges in getting a majority of Americans behind her. She's done a great job, I think, in terms of how she's messaged, but those messages are not attractive messages to the majority of Americans. It's going to be an interesting play.
And we have a strong economy right now on most counts. Justin, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right.